Now, I'll speak to Forbes and Watson in a few minutes, as there is a lot to poke about in this area.
Touch nothing, Mr. Holmes. I'll have to charge your brother an assessment.
Yeah, I don't think that they make grandfather clocks out of crocodile skin.
I've asked you not to touch anything, Mr. Holmes. That's club property.
Now, where exactly does this come from? Ah, well.
Mr. Holmes, I've told you, touch nothing.
I could move it with my shoulder, but it's not worth being crushed by the falling rubble.
I believe that is everything that is relevant. As we need to examine all of these to trigger certain conversational topics.
Forbes, the lounge appears wrapped in morning bombazine.
It hardly matters. There's nothing to see.
You'll excuse me if I should come to a different conclusion.
Suit yourself. Remember, touch nothing. Club rules must be enforced, even in...
Please don't put yourself out. We can get on by ourselves.
You may think so. It's my job to monitor the activities of strangers.
We're not exactly strangers, though.
Are you guarding the perimeter, Forbes?
This seems the best vantage point, Mr. Holmes.
Considering the upper story could collapse at any moment and crash down on our heads.
What? Oh, right, yes. Out of harm's way. Very unstable. Another reason to touch nothing.
I put it to you, Forbes, that before the explosion a man entered the club carrying a valise.
No one could enter the club with a case without my notice. I am responsible and trusted.
Your competence is not at issue, Forbes, but I promise prevarication will ruin you. Now, could anyone have entered the club with a case?
A stranger did come in while I was at my tea. Saw his head and shoulders as he walked to the lounge. Average sort of youngish gentleman, presentable. Had flat eyes like an animal. His party must have been out because he left a minute later. He's the only possibility, Mr. Holmes, I swear.
Thank you, Forbes. That's very satisfactory. I don't suppose you have a bullseye lantern, Forbes.
As it happens, I do not.
I'm not surprised. Fortunately, we are not dependent on your effects. Did Sir Hubert expire in his chair?
The old gentleman was lucky. Never knew it hit him.
Lucky? Is there any predicate to murder victim more inapt than lucky?
You can't prosecute the gas board for an accident.
Spare me your opinion, Forbes. He was murdered as surely as if he took a bullet to the brain.
I'm not exactly sure how luck can be applied to death, but there we go.
Have Sir Hubert's people been notified, Forbes?
He had no family, Mr. Holmes. Outlived them all. The Diogenes was kith and kin to him these many years. Good tipper he was. I'll miss him.
Your sentiment is touching.
Wow.
Forbes, were any of your own possessions lost in the blast?
Not that I know of. Have you found something of mine?
I'm not certain. Watson, what do your feline orbs espy?
Outlines, Holmes. No real details. The smoke plays tricks with the light.
Was your clock face near the grandfather, Watson?
It was, Holmes. How did you guess?
You know my methods, Doctor. I do not guess. I observe. I deduce. Watson, do you have a bullseye? It's as dark as a rent collector's heart over here.
I don't have mine, Holmes. Battery's gone. What do you need?
I'd like to shed some light on the situation rather than curse the darkness.
Okay, so we've asked Watson and Forbes for this bullseye lantern, yet we actually have one in our inventory. How does that work?
Come, Watson, let's carry on.
If we must, Holmes. This is a deuced gloomy place.
These timbers must be hewn.
I'm no lumberjack, Holmes, and we have no saw.
There's more than one way to fell a tree.
Wait, what?
Anything of significance, Watson?
Not that I can see, which isn't much.
I'd like more of what you found, or your skill in finding it.
I wouldn't call it skill, Holmes. It was dumb luck.
Most men's modesty is a sham or an excuse, Doctor. Your modesty becomes you. Watson, might I have a word?
What is it, Holmes?
Do you see a way to dislodge that particular beam without loss of life or limb?
Remove it from a distance. But Forbes will be unhappy if you interfere with that pile.
Then he must be distracted. Watson, I was just thinking of that embalmed armadillo.
Do tell, Holmes.
The military implications are momentous. Impenetrable armor plating, low to the ground. Indefatigable diggers. Perhaps they could be bred larger and taught to fire a cannon. I'll get on to the War Department, shall I? You might analyze the shelves. Was the destruction of the book selective or random, based on Babbage's principle of non-discriminating violent action?
As you say, Holmes.
Excellent, Watson, excellent.
Just a moment, Doctor. I'll superintend your activity. Mr. Holmes appears to have gone daft.
Okay, let's go and find our own armadillo. While they're gone, we can finally free this chain. Where are you going? I am very confused right now. Why couldn't we just walk across here? Like this? It could be dangerous, but we must do it.
Here's the little darling, unexpected and therefore most interesting, but an expert would find it even more illuminating.
And that is that. All this set up just to find a tiny spring. Okay, we are done here. Almost. Oh, hello.
I believe we exhausted the possibilities of this location, Watson.
I hope that you have taken more away from here than I. The fumes are making me woozy.
Oops.
Brother or no brother, you'll receive a bill for harm to that door. It's club property.
It was an accident. Anyway, we weren't the one who put an axe in the door.
Forbes, who relieves you when you're away from your post?
Always on duty, Mr. Holmes. The members have given me a room of my own.
Don't be obtuse. Surely you have bodily functions to attend to, tea breaks and so on?
I leave for a minute or two during the day. I have my 11s and tea at 4:30, with members' permission.
He mentioned before that the stranger entered the club while he was on a tea break.
Did any strangers enter the club in the afternoon?
No one escapes my eye, Mr. Holmes. After the late post, a few guests arrived and left. All perfectly respectable gentlemen.
I'm sure they were, Forbes. Were any of them carrying a valise or a large package, anything of that sort?
Certainly not. The Diogenes don't cater to commercial travellers. I send them packing.
This fellow is too eager to assert his authority, Watson.
He's as willful as a mule, but not as smart. I wouldn't mind taking him down a peg if the opportunity arose.
Wow, that's pretty harsh. Okay, we are done here.
I hope you're satisfied.
You'd be the last to know, Forbes. Matron, I would like to see my brother, Mycroft Holmes.
Your desire and hospital policy do not happen to coincide.
Hospital policy be damned. He's in a precarious condition.
Language, Mr. Holmes. Don't make me call the police.
Why this animus? Is it that incident with the bedpans? Do you still hold a grudge for that student prank?
Assume what you will. Your tenure here was mercifully brief. The medical profession lost nothing when you left us.
No need to be insulting, matron.
As neither of you have any official standing here, please move along.
Has everyone in this game got the arse of each other? No one seems to be happy to see anyone else.
A person in your position should not be guided by prejudice, matron.
You've never thought much of my judgment or my authority, Mr. Holmes. Now, if there's nothing more, please leave.
We do have permission to investigate this.
You'll note I'm authorized to investigate matters relating to the Diogenes explosion.
It's nothing to me. The inspector has no standing among my charges, the quick or the dead. In any case, this is a solicitation for cooperation, not an order.
Excuse me, sir. What is your ailment?
Stagnation at lungs. I'm weak.
Then why are you languishing in this draughty hall?
They're going to stitch up my head what I bashed when I fainted. So I got to take me chances. But if I get this new influenza, I'm for it.
Sir, how long have you been unattended in this wretched hall?
For bleeding ever, if you'll excuse the expression. No one tells me what's going on. I'm not furniture.
We'll get back to you.
Is change forbidden at Bart's?
So it would seem. I feel transported back in time.
Indeed, to the Dark Ages or some similarly dismal and repressive era.
No. To my days as a staff surgeon.
Perhaps to the heyday of the Inquisition. A single glimpse of Matron the Merciless recalled a legion of disagreeable memories. I'd like to throttle the desiccated old bat.
Render a valuable public service, but I doubt you would make the Queen's Honours List for your trouble.
How did you bypass this impediment?
Via the morgue. It's the only convenient way to enter and avoid a night in the Bow Street lockup.
Watson, will this influenza become an epidemic?
I don't know, Holmes, but any viral disease poses a serious risk even to the healthy.
In that case, a hospital is no place to be. Let us stay no longer than absolutely necessary. I ask again, in a civil manner, for permission to see my brother. I am his only relation.
I cannot allow sympathy to shift my judgment. Mr. Holmes will not expire any time soon. There's no need to disturb him and transgress hospital regulations.
That tears it, Watson. It's war. I trust you have no objection if we visit the coroner.
You trust in vain. Dr. Watson has recently pestered him. I can't think of any reason why you should do the same.
Matron, why is this patient forced to languish in this pestiferous hall?
This hall is scrubbed daily. The patient and his insignificant ailments wait on the convenience of one of our most distinguished physicians.
By the time that worthy arrives, he may be able to add pneumonia or influenza to the man's symptoms.
Tend to your own knitting, Mr. Holmes. We will attend to ours.
Have you conceived of a perfectly gruesome method for disposing of the brute?
Nothing so permanent, alas, but a diversion might serve us. She can't attend to her patients and her paperwork at once.
Watson, I'm grateful that mischief is part of your makeup. The invalid might assist us.
Wow. Brute invalids? I'm sure this guy doesn't feel like his ailment is insignificant.
Would you mind if I pushed your gurney to a warmer and more sanitary spot?
As long as I'm on it, I couldn't care less. Any change of scenery would be appreciated.
Now, you would be forgiven for thinking that we're going to be doing him a favour.
That patient must be retrieved. I won't forget this. You've earned trouble for yourselves.
Watson, I think we should take this opportunity to explore the bowels of Bart.
I'm with you, Holmes. I wouldn't want to face her alone.
I'd rather that we didn't explore the bowels of Bart. I can think of nicer things to explore.
Dr. McCabe, might I have a moment of your valuable time?
Not so valuable that I can't afford to spend it as I choose.
Can you tell me how Sir Hubert Fortescue died?
You know better than to ask without authorization, Mr. Holmes.
Might we use the passage from here to the new ward?
Matron reprimanded me for allowing Dr. Watson to go through. Please don't put me in that position again.
Lestrade has approved my mission, but Matron won't accept it.
I won't ask how you got this far, but you know I have procedures here.
We may as well be respectful. Besides, it's an opportunity to examine the body.
Thank you. It never gives me pleasure to deny or ignore your inquiries, Mr. Holmes, but things must be done properly.
Why did we walk further away from him to show him this paperwork? I'm very confused by that one.
Your findings on Sir Hubert, please, Doctor.
The official cause of death was asphyxiation. There is evidence of extensive brain trauma.
And the laceration on his head?
Occurred before death. It is not, however, the source of the brain injury.
Typically precise and pertinent, Doctor.
Flatterer. Now that you've had your way with me, you'll be off to the new ward, just like Dr. Watson. You'll pass from my morgue like snow in April.
Perhaps. But we all must travel this way again. We are all yours in the end, Doctor. Might I examine the body?
Yes, I'll try not to take your request as a criticism of my performance.
Might I see Sir Hubert's clothes?
Help yourself. You know where I keep them.
I'd like to examine Sir Hubert's body again.
As you wish, Mr. Holmes. He's still on the table.
Wait, we didn't examine him in the first place. Why are we asking to do it again?
How many cadavers do you process in a given day?
Too many. Please excuse me. I'm up to my elbows in work.
Not a terribly felicitous expression, considering your vocation.
Perhaps, but accurate. Your visit had a point, I suppose, besides to criticize my choice of words.
Excuse me, Doctor, I was rude.
Okay, let's examine it for the first time. When have you ever heard someone sniff in the air like that? I don't think we actually needed the sound effects for that one.
What can you tell me about the burns on his back, Doctor?
Mostly first degree. His tweed coat is as heavy as a horse blanket.
Have you conclusions about the nature of the fire which killed him?
I suspect a flash fire. Very hot, oxygen-devouring, but its heat was not sustained.
One that could burn convenient fuel, but move too fast to consume heavy furniture, and, forgive me, flesh?
Precisely.
Can the stench of carbolic be harmful to one's health, Watson?
You're overly sensitive, Holmes. A morgue must be disinfected regularly. I rather enjoy it.
Chacun son goût, as my French relations say. The rankest abattoir can be no worse. The morgue and a dental office have much in common, Watson.
You mean that one ardently hopes to avoid visits to both?
Exactly. One feels fortunate to emerge and vows to repeat the experience only under duress. This brings us a little further along, Watson.
Not for the first time, Holmes. You have lost me. What do you mean?
The manner of Sir Hubert's death is a key.
My friend, perhaps you should rest. You're starting to ramble.
Forgive me. Sir Hubert's death confirms your discovery at the club. The explosion's the important thing.
Okay, let's go and check on Mycroft.